This is the next project here. This chimney is in really tough shape. You can see it's all cracked up and pushing apart. It's got this big belly in it. Anytime you have a belly like this in a chimney, you're gonna wonder why it's pushing out like that. It's because behind this brick wall, it's built completely solid. There's something for that brickwork to push off of. When the water gets in there and freezes, it pushes outward, and it has something to push outward off of. So that's why it's bellied out like that. This mortar, too hard for the brick. Most people understand that, you know, the mortar shouldn't be harder than the brick, but they kind of get it wrong, okay? The reason why the mortar shouldn't be harder than the brick is because when the mortar is harder than the brick, it's not just like the brick's gonna automatically break itself up. What happens is it traps the water in. The water cannot drain through the mortar, okay? So it's trying to drain through the brick, and it can't really drain through the brick either because the brick's so hard. And so the water is just trapped in there. So when the water stores in there, it's just storing and storing and storing like a battery. It's absorbing water, but the water cannot come out. You know, and then it freezes and it causes all this failure. And, you know, people keep getting wrapped up in this idea that you can actually stop water from getting into a chimney. Like you could put spray on, sealer on here all the time, and that would be the best thing. Use high, you know, like a type S mortar because it's hard and it doesn't let water in, and then put a spray on sealer on it. But basically what you're trying to, what you're doing when you do it that way is you make it so there's nowhere for the water to come out. The water is always going to get in, whether it comes in through the flue system, condensation, whatever, it's going to get into your chimney. We have to find a way to let it out. So like a historical mortar, a lime mortar would be able to drain that water. That's why you see those chimneys in those mill buildings. They last for so long. It's because the water can drain out of the system. And with our harder mortars nowadays and the way we do things, we don't let the water drain out, and we'll spray this on with sealer, and we'll coat it with a masonry sealer every year, preventing more and more water from getting out of the system. Yeah, so I mean, we still have a lot to learn about masonry and doing this, but obviously this chimney is not even that old. It's built with modular brick. It probably made it 30 years, I bet. You can tell it's holding a lot of water. You know, the moss, it's a good sign of water. The crown wash didn't help any. This is all split out and pushed outward. Someone tried to skim coat this on top, and the crown wash is mortar on top here. And I guess we have some concrete in there. They had some concrete underneath, but you know, water can start getting in through the top into your brickwork, and if it can't drain out anywhere, this is what happens. Complete failure. And it's all the way down. You see all these, that little hairline right there, it looks like nothing, but that brick split clean in half. Right here. See that? Split through and through. You see a little hairline crack and white efflorescence. Those brick are smoked. And you know, it's like this. It's like this most of the way down. You know, water storing in there, and it cannot get out. So if you're going to use a hard brick, this is a very hard brick, a water-struck brick or something like that, don't think your chimney's going to last forever just because you have a water-struck brick. If that water can't get out through the mortar joints, you know, via a softer mortar, something that can drain, it will lead to failure. You have to keep the water out of your chimney and keeping it off the chimney as well. Like, you know, if you just had a custom stainless cap on here, you know, when this was built new, say you corbelled these brick outward and then put a custom stainless cap that hung over the whole thing, even this chimney, the way it was built, it was poorly built with bad mortar, and it was built solid, but it would have lasted a lot longer just keeping most of the water off of the top. Just barely getting into the demo on this chimney, and you can see it's built exactly like we thought. You know, it's solid in there. They've got it filled with rubble, and you can see the moisture on that brick. That brick right there is just dripping wet, and this sand here is all just old mortar that's deteriorated. you know, so these spaces, they get full of water, they can't drain out. Another reason why you don't want to fill the chimney solid. It's just like a battery in there storing that water. As we're getting into it, you can see that these brick are all saturated. The flue is damp. All this brick, it's all damp. And you know, it hasn't frozen yet, so once it freezes hard, all this stuff will just start to frost up, you know, and then it pushes on the outside of this wall, and that's why it's all pushed out. This mortar breaks down, holds more moisture, and freezes and pushes out. Take notice of this ice building up on here. You see how the water gets in there and expands and gets bigger? So this was under the concrete crown wash, and you can tell that, you know, this is all ice, and it's probably like, I don't know, it's probably like an 1/8 inch thick or so, but you can tell that that water gets in there and it expands and it just gets bigger and it pushes out on everything. We just got these brick on site and they are all cracked through and through. This is what the brick manufacturers are sending out. They don't even care. Nobody holds them accountable anymore, but they look like, oh, it's just on the surface, right? But it's not. When you pull them out, I opened this corner up and I took the stack down. They're all cracked, and it's not just on the surface, it's right through. And this is what the brick manufacturers are sending out now. They don't care. Nobody holds them accountable. So now, you know, we just told the guy to put them back on the truck because we can't use them. I mean, the homeowner would walk up and be like, hey, my brick are cracked, you know? I've never used this company before, but I guess they're from West Virginia. You know, the bricks seem like they're consistent sizing for the most part. They're a little off, but yeah, that cracking, there's no way. We can't put this stuff in. Well, the guy just delivered the brick and then he loaded them up and took them back. We're just getting ready to go to lunch, and this is where we are. You can see that this brick is just completely had it. You know, you fill it solid like this and it's holding moisture. That's what's gonna happen. Every time I get into a job like this, it reminds me of this guy that used to be on YouTube years ago. I think he was from California, and he would show up to the job, and I think he called himself the Chimney King. He says, I'm the Chimney King. And he would show up, and then he's like, that's what these guys didn't fill it solid. And he'd be outraged that they didn't fill the chimney solid. And he'd be bringing stuff and throwing it down there and filling it solid, and, you know, thinking he's doing some great thing. But really, when you fill it solid, I mean, you can see the moisture. It's still holding in the brick. The second the wind starts to get it, it's a little windy today, it starts to dry up, but it just stays damp in here. The water can't come out, people. Don't do this. As we go down, you can see that the mortar is actually starting to get a little bit harder down here. It's getting a little tougher to take all these brick apart. Some of this stuff, you know, it just hasn't deteriorated like the stuff at the top. You can see the flue inside here is spalling as well from the moisture. It's disintegrating because, you know, this stuff's all wet in here. It's wet through and through. So I think what we figured out is that this chimney, the chimney that we're ripping down now, was built right around 1999. So maybe 2000. It hasn't really had a good run, but you can see that they reused some of the old brick from the last time it was built, and you can see that whiter stuff looks like lime mortar with this older brick, and then they put a newer brick in with this gray mortar. And inside here, oh, this is the attic. Yeah, it's not typical to open this up and just be able to see into the attic, but the way this is built, it's just how it is. And they stepped it over on that board right here. I don't have the best lighting, but you can see they put a header course in here to bump it back. So, you know, we're a full 4 inches back here. And we're probably not going to do it back the same way. So we'll have to figure out what we're going to do to make that work. Maybe have to frame in the roof or something. So we've worked our way down. We're into quite a bit of rot in here. All this tar paper. It was probably damaged the last time they rebuilt the chimney. They never repaired it. And so all this moisture got through and kind of rotted these boards out here. So we'll have to show that to the carpenter on site and see what he has to say about it. But it's still going pretty solid. Everything's getting a little tougher to rip down now. This mortar, it's got mortar and brick the whole way. Good news is we finally ran into some good gravel. I don't know why. I'm actually excited to see this stone. Maybe it'll come down a little easier now. But yeah, it looks like they filled it up to this point with this this stone. So they get just this, I don't know, 3/8 inch stone here. It's kind of like a pea stone, I guess, maybe a little bigger. I'm hoping it's here from here the rest of the way and everything will come down a little easier. But yeah, all these tricks you see over the years. Usually people don't spring for this type of stuff, but they'll use mortar, sand, or debris. Most of this stuff comes from the chimneys that were built in the past. So actually, the woman was just walking by on the road here, and she said, my father rebuilt that chimney 65 years ago. She said her family owned this house from 1939 to 1999. She said, I remember, yep, he was chipping the brick, cleaning them all off. He used brick that he got from somewhere. And you can see that the used brick, they're all in here. These are the used brick. They have the mortar on them. They were probably cleaned up and used the last time. And these brick are all new brick. They're new modular, smooth face brick. They're not used in any way. So she said they sold the house in 1999. So I figured that the chimney had to be rebuilt, you know, right around, you know, my guess was looking at the chimney, it was 30 years old based on how it was built. But maybe it was only like 25. So it was like, or maybe a little less, built around 99 or 2000, around that day, I would guess. But yeah, somehow we got to break the cycle of failure because, you know, her father's chimney didn't last that long. I think everybody thinks that they're going to do it a little better. Like, you know, the original chimney probably lasted the longest. It probably lasted 100 years. And then when they went to rebuild it, they were like, well, this chimney only lasted 100 years. How are we going to make it, you know, last longer? And it seems like we're failing more and more. Like 20 to 30 years life out of a chimney, a brick chimney or fireplace is not okay. Like, we have to do better. They figured this stuff out hundreds of years ago, and now we're just going downhill. You know, we added the flues, we're building them solid. And this is a lot of extra work to do it like this, to build it solid with the brick and mortar and bring in all this pea stone. And it's not easier to do it like this. They were all thinking, everybody always thinks they're doing it a better way than the last guy. And the problem is they're not. It's just getting worse and worse. And I feel like we're just losing it. And the only way that we're going to get through this is by sharing information on platforms like YouTube or whatever, where people can actually like look at somebody else's work, or you know, people can explain what they think about chimneys instead of just hearing it from the guy down the road, or like people that don't really put much thought into it. They're like, oh, this, you know, chimneys need to be built solid. We need to fill them solid. That's the best way. And there's a lot of people around here that talk like that. There's people that built them like that. There's people that still believe that to this day, that every chimney should be built solid. But the problem, or like the hard mortar thing, people want to use type S mortar or harder mortar, but it's all proven to just fail after like 20 or 30 years. So the only way we're going to get better is by sharing information on platforms like YouTube or social media, where we can all exchange ideas. Because, you know, there's guys on YouTube that, you know, some really nice guys that have big channels. They show masonry, chimney stuff. that have no idea what they're talking about. And you can tell they don't have travel skills, but you know, they're selling themselves and people believe it. But I think most people can kind of see through it. I think it's good to get both sides of it. Like you see one guy that's like kind of a buffoon, explaining it, and then you hear somebody that knows what they're talking about, and you just decide which way might be better, or somewhere in the middle, you know. So sharing information is important because obviously, you know, we've lost something along the way. That's all the rot. Pretty rough looking stuff, but the carpenter came this morning. He took a look at it. He pulled back some siding. He got a game plan for replacing that beam and all this rough sawn going down. So we're just getting into the smoke chamber here. We just removed the last fluid. Now we're into the smoke chamber. Obviously, the brick here, as you can see, is really close. It's 4 inches thick on that side with no airspace to the wood, which is not code compliant to today's standards at all. And like I said before, that this chimney is probably actually only 25 years old. So obviously, when it was built, the code would still not support this type of building. He's got, you know, I guess it's solid on all sides except for the one side that matters. He's got 8 inches on this side of brickwork and these two sides, and then this side's only got 4 inches. It's right up against the wood. Obviously, this fireplace has been used quite a bit, but you know, the wood's not burned or charred or anything. So, you know, I guess that's saying something. You know, it's if you got 4 inches of masonry there and there's no way air can get back there or anything. I see a lot of them built like this. So, you know, the codes that we have to build to today are like, you know, some of them might be a little bit overkill. If it, you know, if this house was going to burn down because it was only 4 inches thick, it surely would have burnt down by now, especially with how much use the fireplace had. Anyhow, yeah, it can't be rebuilt like this. So we get a little bit more. We had to actually, you know, this mortar down here is way harder than the stuff we were working on up top. So had to bring in the big guns today. It just was taking too much for the battery powered DeWalt to get through it. So we went and rented this corded jackhammer. This one's a lot more powerful, goes right through it. Yeah, we filled up the trailer and now we're working on it again. It doesn't take a lot to fill up the trailer when everything is filled solid. You know, there's a lot of debris. Well, we finally made it down to the damper. As you can see, we're still 4 inches thick, just one course of brick right up against the wood. Fireplace is right there through the damper. And look, none of this stuff has been affected by the heat. It's kind of interesting, you know. I pull apart a lot of fireplaces like this that are up against the wood, and there's no issues with the wood charring or showing any evidence of too much heat. I'm not advocating for, you know, less code, but I'm just saying sometimes the code gets a little bit, you know, it maybe a little too much. I know some houses may be burned down because they weren't built properly, but you know, the code right now specifies we have to have 8 inches of solid masonry, and then still we have to have a 1 inch air gap, you know, from the outside wood. So, you know, something to think about, I guess. Just a little overkill, maybe. You know, the problem with having this 8 inches thick and then 1 inch off the back wall is, look how, I don't know if you can see, but that fireplace is pretty deep already. Look how much deeper it would have to be just to accommodate the clearances, you know. It just seems like a lot when you go with a deep fireplace. Obviously, deep fireplaces don't throw heat because they're just too deep. So I don't know. I really like the old-fashioned way they built fireplaces, and You know, those houses and those fireplaces, I think, were awesome. And the way that we do it now, it's not very exciting. All right, just getting the mixer on the job, and it's cold today, even though the sun's starting to come up. You can see the ground's frozen. We finally got material on the job. After we demoed the chimney the other day, all that, what you can see behind the black tarp was all rotted out, so the carpenter had to come in and replace all that, replace one of the beams. And yeah, so that was the start of it. And then we had all our brick delivered, and all the brick were cracked, so we had to send them back. So it took like a week for the carpenter to do all the carpentry work, and then the brick that turned into, I don't know, it's been a couple weeks. So picked up some flues for the fireplace, so we show up to work, and then all of a sudden the crane is right here with the whole tree crew removing trees, you know, it's a bit blustery out here. Anyhow, yeah, the tree crew is overhead and they're craning trees over the scaffolding. So we're like, you know what, it's not a good day to be here. So we didn't end up working that day. And then we show up to work again, and these fence guys are like right in our way. So it's like, you know, everything that can go wrong with a job kind of has already. But I mean, good news is we found some good brick. These are actually like some of the nicest replica brick I feel like I've seen. These are made by General Shale. I think they're like I think they're called Waterton or something like that. But yeah, we were able to get a couple pallets here, and we're ready to go. We've got a pallet of mud, and yeah, we got to set this shelter because it's too cold for brickwork out here. It seems sunny, but it's cold. So all right, fellas, I can't hide it. I get so angry this time of year working. Like, I don't know, there's something about it. I've worked so long outside in the cold, like when I was younger and struggling in the cold weather, that now when I have to work in the cold weather, I just get so bitter about everything. I try to be upbeat, and I don't know, it's like this yearly winter depression that kind of sets in, and you know, I start to have a little bit of a short fuse, and I start barking at everyone. Like the other day, you know, we showed up, the tree guys were there craning the trees over, so we couldn't work. They were craning them right over the scaffolding, and they were all, you know, we didn't really have access to the job because they had their crane and chipper and trucks blocking the road. So, you know, what are you gonna do? We couldn't work that day. So we come back a couple days later, and the fence guys are all up in our stuff, blocking the whole area, putting fence up, and we're like, you know, after the delays on this job, and so I get out of the truck, and I'm just like, I'm already mad. And, you know, I start barking at the fence guy, and then I'm like, what am I doing? Like, just being a jerk for no reason. And, you know, they end up being nice guys, but I just find that, you know, working in the cold for me, like, it's hard to be upbeat. Like, I get up in the morning now, and I'm just like, I don't want to come out here and work, you know? Once I get a shelter up and inside the shelter and stuff, it's not so bad, but I don't know. You know, like, just wearing my heavy clothes for the winter, I've got, you know, my boots, my heavy sweatshirts, and all this extra gear. It's exhausting. You know, by the end of the day, you just get exhausted. And I hate dragging around all this extra weight. You know, everything's frozen. It's just, everything is so much tougher in the wintertime. And, you know, I guess it is what it is, but I'd rather, you know, given the chance, I'd rather take all these jobs and just push them until spring. This one ended up going late. You know, this is, you know, it happens, especially if you work for builders. They're like, oh yeah, we'll have this fireplace ready to go in September. Well, that fireplace will always go in the middle of January. And once you realize this, you just, you know, and then you didn't bid for shelter, so, you know, then they get all mad because, you know, you got to charge for heat and shelter and stuff like that. So anyhow, just my little rant. Working in the winter sucks. So it's 40 feet by 100 feet. So the roll, you know, left to right, if you rolled it out, it would go 100 feet. When it opens up this way, that will open up to 40 feet. So when I put this on the staging, this 40-foot way is the way that's going to go up. So I'm only going to cut enough out of this roll to go around that leg of the staging right there to the wall. So I'm going to cut this first piece 12 feet from here, and then it will be 12 feet by 40 feet, and then we should be able to put that on the corner of the staging like that. All right, so the first piece of poly is going to go from this back corner, you know, behind this plant to the house. Okay, and then the next piece is going to do the same thing on the other side, except for that piece is going to extend this way to this corner. Okay, so this first piece I cut at 12 feet, so then it's going to be 12 feet by 40 feet up. And then this next piece, I just added 7 feet. So, I mean, roughly, I just cut it 20 feet. So that will wrap these two sides here and then go to the house and all the way up. And then what we want is we want this backside to be able to open because we have all this stock on the ground and we cannot put it all on the scaffolding at once. So at some point we're gonna have to open, use the bull wheel, and pull some brick and flues and stuff up. We can't get it all in one piece because we wouldn't be able to open it up to be able to, you know, pull up our buckets of mud and whatnot. So always got to be able to open it. Getting to the top here, the shelter is almost complete. We just have to finish tying it together. So where this piece meets the piece on the staging, you're always going to get some funny stuff like this. Okay, so this is loose, but it's important that we tie that all together because this has to be super strong. We've just put a huge sail on this staging, and if it's not strong, the staging will literally go over. So this stuff's all reinforced with this this rope that's embedded in the poly, and it's super strong. And if we get this poly to be tied to the structure of the house, it's going to make everything stay up that much better. Obviously we don't want it falling down, so we're going to go overkill and really tie it together. So to put this stuff together, you know, the best way that I found to do it is to just take a piece, you take the plastic like this, and you just pull it to this plastic here, and you just pinch them together, and you roll it so it's together nice and tight. Okay, we're gonna end up doing this right down, and you just take a piece of rebar tie wire, okay, and we're gonna go real tight to that roll. Then we're gonna go through like that. Just give it a couple wraps, okay, and then bend your ends in so you don't get poked by them later. All right, this is the setup. It's not pretty, but it'll keep heat in. It's actually going to start warming up a little bit. We just got to find a place. There's a generator back here, and we got to find a place to put our heater and the propane tank. But it's all nice and strapped. We strapped it to the siding on the building, and you know, beforehand we talked to the painter about it, and he says that he's going to be able to fill the holes. And this one's nice because it's all wood siding, and behind it it's all nice wood, so we have something good to grip into. It's pretty sturdy. This is the slab we're going to be starting off of. It wasn't quite square, so we had to cut it back just to try to get our brickwork a little bit more square. When they cut this originally, when they formed it originally, they formed it off the foundation, but that was kind of a mistake because the foundation and the house are not on plane with each other. So what I did is I took it and I shot my laser up to that beam that goes across here, and then I measured out off of there, and that's how I'm going to get my brickwork nice and square with the house. Otherwise, what would happen is this side would have been longer than that side, which some people are okay with that, but I just can't deal with it. I fix it down here, and that way I'll have nice square symmetrical brickwork the whole way. This is the brick that we've picked out for the job after we sent the other ones back. I actually really like this brick. It's got this tumbled look to it. And you know, it looks really soft and old, and it's just got that, it's got a really nice look to it. It's a little bit chippy, some of them, but like this, you know, these are actually good brick that we're going to use. Some of them might have some bigger chunks off of them. Like even that one's still pretty good. They're nothing on par with Glengarry. These are just like a million times better than the Glengarry tumbled brick. So, and these ones are going to look pretty historically accurate as far as new replica brick go. These are probably my favorite brick now as far as replica brick. Just the way they look, I think looks awesome. So I actually can't wait to see what they look like laid up. I think they're going to be really good. Well, that's it for today. We're all sheltered up, and tomorrow we'll be back in here with a little bit of heat, and we'll be laying this up.